Welcome to Video 7 of the Living Well Program video series. The Living Well program was developed to encourage support, connection, and well-being for older adults. This program promotes healthy aging and aims to increase all older adults' well-being by sharing information and empowering participants to live a life that is meaningful for them as individuals. You might wonder, why living well? The title of this program was chosen because everyone deserves to live well. This video will focus on ways that older adults can build positive coping strategies. This video's discussion explores self-care coping strategies. Throughout the video, there will be moments of pause to allow for reflection, or please feel free to pause the video at any point to view it at your own pace. There are three main objectives that will be covered in this video. We will begin by defining self-care and discussing why it is important. Once we have this definition, we will explore times when it may be more challenging to participate in self-care. We will also discuss and identify strategies for self-care. Let's begin by defining self-care. What does self-care mean to you? Practicing self-care means we take action to improve our health and well-being. Self-care helps us to take care of different areas of our lives, such as physical, emotional, social, and spiritual well-being. Self-care is often discussed as a habit or practice in which we participate. Now that we have defined self-care, it is important to address the reasons that people often do not participate in self-care practices or habits. A common factor is that people hold the belief that self-care is selfish. However, self-care is the opposite of selfish. When people participate in self-care, they are often better at caring for others. A common saying is that you can't pour from an empty cup, so taking care of yourself first helps you to fill other roles in your life. Another reason people do not participate in self-care is that they feel that they have time constraints. The idea that we are too busy for self-care can often lead to us feeling tired or overwhelmed in our lives. Another factor is that people do not feel that they have energy to participate in self-care. When this happens, it can be helpful for people to rethink their self-care practices or habits so that they are more realistic for that person's circumstances. What else gets in the way? It can be different for each individual. Let's talk about self-care in a different way. In 1989, Dr. Stephen R. Covey wrote a book titled The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The book describes several habits that can be helpful throughout life. The 7th habit that Stephen Covey described is called Sharpen the Saw. This habit can be a helpful way to talk about self-care. Stephen Covey tells the following story. A man was walking through a forest when he came across a frustrated lumberjack. The lumberjack was trying to cut down trees and was labored in vain. "What's the problem?" the man asked. "My saw is blunt and won't cut the tree properly," the lumberjack responded. "Why don't you just sharpen it?" the man said. "Because then I would have to stop sawing," said the lumberjack. "But if you sharpened your saw, you could cut more efficiently and effectively than before," said the man. "But I don't have time to stop," the lumberjack retorted, getting more frustrated. The man shook his head and kept on walking, leaving the lumberjack to his pointless frustration. This story is important to our discussion about self-care because it reminds us of the importance of taking care of ourselves. We can only be at our best when we take time to take care of ourselves. We can get frustrated by life and our inability to cope, but instead of developing ourselves and taking time to become more effective, we keep struggling with a blunt saw. This story tells us to stop, sharpen our saws, and take steps to live a life that promotes better well-being. When we think about sharpening the saw, we think about finding a balance by participating in a variety of self-care practices that promote wellness in our bodies, minds, hearts, and souls. Let's turn first to discussing self-care for body. How do you take care of your body? Think about things that you do to take care of your physical well-being. This is an example list of self-care strategies for body. Nutrition captures the idea of eating as healthy as possible. There may be times in life when we seek out the support of loved ones or a doctor to help us better understand our nutritional needs. Next, we can also think about things like our water intake when we think about caring for our bodies. Next on this example list is sleep. Practicing a healthy sleep routine is an important part of self-care. Having a regular bedtime and using calming activities before bed can help improve sleep. Last on this example list is exercise. Think about exercise as an opportunity to move your body. This could include walking, housework or yard work, stretching, or any way that you enjoy moving. How do you take care of your mind? For this area of self-care, we are trying to think about anything we do that stimulates our minds. Here is an example list of self-care strategies for mind. First on this list is reading. This could include reading the newspaper or maybe your favorite genre of book. Writing is also a great strategy. It can be writing letters, writing in a journal, or writing down things you would like to remember. Next on this list is learning something new. Maybe you have always wanted to learn a new skill or learn more about something that interests you. This can be a great strategy for self-care. Last on this list is puzzles. This can be any puzzles you enjoy, whether it is jigsaw puzzles, number puzzles, or word puzzles. When talking about sharpening the saw, self-care for heart is referring to the ways we take care of our heart in our social relationships with others. It encourages us to feel connected to other people. Hearing this, how do you take care of your heart? This is another example list of self-care strategies for taking care of your heart by finding connections with others. The first idea is to phone a loved one. Maybe it is someone you have not spoken to in a while, or maybe you regularly phone a loved one on a weekly basis. Next on this example list is play a game. You could play a game of cards with a group of friends, or maybe a board game with a family member. Playing games is one way to participate in connection and communication with others. Next on this list is sharing a meal. Depending on your individual circumstances, this may be something you are able to do on a regular or maybe a more occasional basis. The dinner table provides a space for important conversations with others. Last on this list is plan a visit. There may be times when you feel disconnected from people in your life. Planning a visit can help to break up these times and help us to look forward to something. With thinking about sharpening the saw, the final area to consider for self-care is the soul. It can be helpful to think of strategies for the soul as being things that promote calm in ourselves. How do you take care of your inner self? This list starts with the idea of journaling. People journal about many things, but often a journal can be used to record thoughts, feelings, or experiences from a person's day. Next on this list is to listen to music, or maybe you enjoy playing music, which could also fit here. Next is to spend time in nature. Maybe you have a favorite place in nature, such as by a tree or a park, and this can be a place you find calm for your soul. Last on this example list is spending time reflecting, which may include thinking deeply, praying, meditating, or participating in cultural or spiritual practices. It is important to note that this brief overview about body, mind, heart, and soul discussed these areas as including separate strategies for self-care. However, often our self-care strategies overlap. For example, maybe you enjoy doing puzzles with a family member or friend. In this case, doing puzzles could be a form of self-care for both your mind and your heart. Using Sharpen the Saw to discuss self-care provides one way we can think about finding balance in the way we care for ourselves. At this point in the video, we invite you to try out a brief activity that will encourage you to think about self-care in your own life. If you would like, you can pause the video to get a piece of paper and pen to work through the activity, or you can choose to listen to the activity. This activity is called Self-Care Kit. We will think about a couple of ways that we can create a kit for self-care, or what we can also call a self-care plan. The first self-care kit idea involves a blank sheet of paper and pen. The steps are as follows. Step 1, fold your paper in half once, then a second time so that it's a quarter of its first size. Step 2 is to unfold your paper, and the fold creases should create 4 spaces to write in. Step 3 is to label each of the 4 spaces, one for body, mind, heart, and soul. And step 4 is to list strategies that you would like to continue to do or add to your self-care plan. This example lists some strategies that are a bit more specific than our earlier discussion. For body, it lists go for a walk and drink water, and this could be made even more specific by saying how long the walk would be or how much water to drink. For mind, the list includes work on a puzzle and read the newspaper. The heart portion includes phone a friend and eat a meal with someone. If you like these ideas, you may want to list the name of a friend or friends that you will phone. Last, the soul portion lists write in a journal and sit outside in nature. If you choose to work on this activity, you can fold it up when you are done and keep it in a place that you will remember to look at it. Sometimes people like to put these reminders on a fridge or on a pin board. Know that you can always add or remove ideas to this list. An alternative way to create a self-care kit is to find a box or bag that you can put self-care items inside of. For example, for body, you could put a small ball such as a stress ball as a reminder to exercise. For mind, you could put your favorite book inside or a book you are currently reading. For heart, you could put a restaurant menu inside with a reminder to arrange for a meal with a family member or friend. And for soul, you could put a journal inside along with a pen you like to write with. This is just one example of how to create a self-care kit out of objects. If you choose to do this activity, you can spend time selecting the self-care strategies that are most meaningful to you. Take a moment to think about how the self-care activity went for you or your reactions to the ideas of completing this activity for yourself. You may also want to pause and think about how you can commit to taking time for self-care in your life. A key message from this activity is that everyone is deserving of taking time for self-care. It is important to adopt strategies that are meaningful and realistic for your personal circumstances. To recap this video, we define self-care as being any action we take to improve our health and well-being. We discussed how sometimes things get in the way of self-care, such as when we feel we don't have energy or time. We also talked about different strategies for self-care and should remember that it is important we choose strategies that fit best for ourselves. This brings us to the end of video 7 of the Living Well program video series. Thank you for listening and watching. We hope that you have learned something new or added to your knowledge. If you have any questions about the Lloydminster Interval Homes Living Well program, please do not hesitate to contact us.